Hello everyone, welcome to a new banner review. This time we'll take a look at Monstrous Harvest. Now, before we start, you may have realized that I'm a bit behind in terms of video schedule. That is because I got sick. Maybe you can hear it in my voice right now, but I actually am still sick. I'm at least at a point where I can speak without feeling like my voice is about to break, however. So I'll be trying to record more or less the videos right now. I have 2 out of 4 already with the assets done. One of the 2 that I have not done yet is the Sacred Seal one, which I'm sure people are so sad that it's not my priority, but you know. So I have this video that's ready, I have the roll video that's more or less ready, I just have to basically record my thoughts on them. And then the refined video I'm halfway done, so expect it to be a bit slow because right now we're starting to get in a new type of thing that we'll be learning at school. We'll be learning to do matching? I don't know how to pronounce this in English. In French it would be usinage, so it's a completely different word. But yeah, so it's new knowledge to assimilate, so I'm not too sure if I'll have the energy afterwards, since I think it's going to be more on the physical side. Sorry about that. I'll do my best to do as much as I can, but do you know I'm only still human, and I'm, again, sick. So I'll do what I can do. But yeah, enough about my life. I'm sure not a whole lot of you care about my health. So let's talk about this banner, and as usual, I'll go from worst to best. Starting with Ileana. Now, this is a problem with this banner in a nutshell. Armored units are very underwhelming nowadays. And so are calves. Though calves, how can I put this? Calves are still useful and very newcomer friendly, so there's at least that going for them. Armored units, on the other hand, are not, like, new player friendly whatsoever, and even if you have all the fodder for them, they tend to be on the underwhelming side. This problem tends to be for one problem and one problem alone. They have one perk, which is having the most BST of any units, yet they never use this perk most of the time. What I mean by this is, you know, you have the most BST so you can spread it around however the fuck you want, right? They don't tend to do that a whole lot. What I mean by this is, you know, you're looking at Ileana and you're like, man, high attack, high res, okay def, okay HP, and bad speed. Where have I seen this before? A ton. An absolute truck ton. Though, to be fair, the only way to make her somewhat interesting would be to make her a power creep version of Ellie Lynn, which would be just having more attack, maybe two or three less points in speed, because Alto more or less fixes the problem that, you know, Ileana might have in speed in the first place. Lynn would have in the first place, since she has too much. But instead they decided to go with this stat line. There's 2 problems with this stat line. One of them is the fact that it's just a slightly better stat line to Legendary Julia. A unit that's an infantry unit, therefore she gets access to skills such as Special Spiral, Infantry Breath, Infantry Hexblade for supporting your team, and so many other skills on top of a unique Light and Dark B skill, on top of a pref that basically does everything that Ileana might want to some extent to do, which is more attack, more res, so Bold Fighter, Iceberg does more damage. It's just really, really hard to bring any kind of good argument in favor of Ileana. And here comes the comparison itself. I mentioned Lynn before, this is why. As you can see, even the bulk is not that far off, it's only 3 less points in def and 3 less points in res. The bulk is 4 less points for HP. Which, okay. And 7 less attack, but that speed stat, that's the reason why Lyn is just better. The fact of the matter is, the main source of damage for armored units, what makes an armored unit work is because they have something like special fighter going for them. Special fighter allows you to shut down specials from other bolt fighter units, other vengeful fighter units, and so on top of giving you access to your special a lot quicker. This is the only real way for a mage armored unit to have any kind of cooldown increase outside of Heavy Blade and Flashing Blade. Flashing Blade ain't working for Ileana, and Heavy Blade is redundant because of Bolt Fighter. So, yeah, it's not great, is it? Having 2 charge on both attack and defense is fantastic, and this is why Lyn is a lot better. Whatever problem she might have in damage over Ileana is irrelevant, because if you double your enemy, if you run Glacies, you hit, get hit, prog Glacies. You get hit, you hit back, you hit again, prog Glacies. You get the idea. Glacies makes up for the entire attack loss. As a fact of the matter, it's even more than that. Plus, on top of this, because the way you will most likely use her is with an Altome, you can push that attack even higher, make up for the def and res loss over Ileana, and so on and so forth. Without the recoil Fury gives from Ileana's weapon. Now, I will say one thing about Ileana's weapon, going back here for a second. Ileana's weapon, and for that matter, every weapon of this banner that has Fury, they're good. They're just not on the right type of units. Outside of La Rochelle, no one of them can really use them, because the most effective part of this weapon is the fact that you can use Fury and then combo this into double Brazen. Brazen A skill, Brazen Seal slot, because having Fury in your weapon to begin with basically frees up your A slot, makes it very easy to fall into Brazen category, and it opens up a lot of ways. Hell, even Ileana could use double Brazen attack speed, and suddenly she is speedy enough. The problem with this is it's not really consistent, and the main thing that makes speed so wanted on an armored unit, despite the fact that 34 out of 49 armored units have less than 30 speed. Yeah, if you count 35 plus speed, I believe that number falls down to 5 out of 49, but let's move on. Is the fact that you want to run Special Fighter. But you can't really run Special Fighter with a Fury weapon because Special Fighter dies under 50% health. So it doesn't work on an armored unit. Not to mention an armored unit in general is supposed to be a tank. Why are you taking a tank and deciding, you know what would be a good idea? How about we just say screw the tanking nature of this unit and make it take damage every turn? What a great idea. See, this type of weapon would have been great on, say, New Year, because New Year is typically mostly flyers and then maybe one cav. Flyers with this weapon would actually work quite well. As a matter of fact, you can just remove that weapon and give it to another unit, like, say, an infantry blue mage, like, say... I don't know if Delphia works on initiation and on defense, but let's say it works only in one way. You could use Fury comboed with Brazen, so she has a bit of a multi-phase going for her. This is the same concept. And overall, it's actually a great weapon. It's just it doesn't work on an armored unit. But yeah, all that to say that Lyn, overall, just because she has a good speed stat, despite it being the only stat that she has over Ileana, makes her better than Ileana. Despite the fact that it's been 18, 20 months since her release, it's been a long time now. Yet Lyn is still overall better. Because, you know, armored unit with speed stat are so rare, while the opposite is not. Honestly, the only thing that Ileana really has going for her is the fact that she is the second of her movement weapon type combo. But even then, the fact that we got Legendary Julia not that long ago, and you can't even pull the card, well, it's a Legendary banner, therefore it's hard to pull. It's easier to pull Legendary Julia than it is to pull Ileana, because Ileana will have this banner and then never come back outside of a Legendary banner in like 4 to 6 months, and then will just come back once a year. It's not exactly a good prospect, is it? Compared to Julia coming every 3 to 4 months. Wonder why. But yeah, Lyn is overall superior, and it's kind of a sad part to say, because, you know, if she had been an infantry unit with this type of stat line, she would not have been amazing, because again, Legendary Julia exists and is just better in every way. But there is so many more ways to, you know, introduce Ileana in a team comp when she is not an armored unit. There are very few armored units I even consider building. And typically it's because they are fan favorites. Or, well, favorites of mine, I should say. Ellie Elliewood is a great example. I plus 10 him because I love Elliewood's character. Legendary Hector, I did it, well, because for scoring, mostly. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to get a plus 10 Elliewood. They go well together. They actually work as a pretty good team. Though I'm going to be honest, as a unit, Hector is probably the weakest link of my fire team. Oh well, that's just how it is. Legendary Tiki, I adore Tiki. Of course I'm going to plus 10 her. Nagi, she's now plus 6, and I'm planning on plus 10ing her. As soon as she appears on the Legendary banner, she is most likely going to appear on. Yeah. Because it's Nagi. I like Nagi. But, see, here's the thing. If it's not an, like, if it's not an armored unit, most of these units would be better. Outside of Elliewood, Legendary Tiki. And I guess Nagi, because mine is hitting almost 50 speed, but that's because of a team comp in particular I run with Nagi. I will most likely be showcasing it later, or I could maybe now just leave a comment if you would want to see it in action or something. I don't mind too much, but anyway. Moving on to the next one. Hector. Yeah, I can already tell a lot of people are going to be like, wait, you mean that Hector is the second worst unit of the banner? What are you even saying? The dude has a duo skill, he's so good! Yeah, okay. First off, the duo skill. Okay? It falls into the same situation as Yune's weapon. Or is it the weapon or Chaos Manifest? I think it's Chaos Manifest. It hits 3 columns around the unit. What happens if you're fighting on a map that's mainly horizontal? Like, it happens a lot in Arena. Oh, what's that? You can't use your skill because it basically does nothing then? If you use your duo skill? A lot of people consider this weapon or this duo skills to be just an easy win button. But I have to say, it's so dependent on what map you get that this feels completely wrong. Not to mention, if you want a win button in Arena for your bonus unit, you wouldn't use Hector, you would use Surtur. Because Surtur has literally the duo effect around him at the start of every turn with no drawback. Yeah, a bit more busted, is it? So Sinmara is just a better duo effect. Now, the other issue that this character has overall is that odd follow-up and the weapon are not good. The best way I can call Conjurer Curious is a worse demonic breath, which is Idun's breath. As for odd follow-up, it's basically Rid's Gyoll, but worse. So, it's basically 2 pretty good breath, all fast, put into one unit. 1 minute, I'm just going to mute the mic to cough. Anyway, so yeah, it's not too ideal, is it? Conjure Curios. The best way to really compare it to Demonic Breath is this. They are both effective against armored foes. I don't know if they both give attack, but that's very, beside the point. If you have less than 100% HP, grants attack speed, def, rest, +4. Both weapons do this. This is the difference, though. If it is an odd numbered turn, you get the same effect. So if you get, if it is an odd turn, this is a condition. The other condition that Idun has, okay, to replace this one is if there is a penalty on this unit. However, here comes the big thing that makes it so easy to choose Idun over Hector. Any penalties you have are negated with Idun. If you're fighting anyone that relies on penalties to deal damage to you, aka the Cleaner, which is a weapon you see a lot in AR, it is nullified. To put it simply, even if you have -7 across the board, well, Idun just gets a flat 4 across the board and ignores all of those penalties. Even if you're panicked, the panic itself is being negated. You don't keep the buff that you had before, because they are considered penalties now, but they are reduced to 0 anyway. Comparing this to, well, it works on odd turns, is... wow. Wow. No. Because that's one of the things, right? Chill Def is typically going to be hitting Hector. Chill Res might, Chill Attack most likely will, but Idun, those are -7 attack and def, which can be a problem for Hector. Idun would just shrug it off, because she's Idun. Same thing with Chill Res in her case, because she has a base 34 res, which is pretty solid, if that does happen. And penalties are really easy to get on your enemies, or on yourself, especially with chills existing, especially since Chill Def is now a thing. So yeah, very, very good pref. So comparing it to Hector is, wow, they went backward. They somehow went backward 8 months later after Idun. Idun not only has more BST, but a better weapon. How silly is that? And then the typical distant counter, which, okay. Own armor, which, why? And bonfire. Yeah, this kit is not too impressive. Odd follow-up working only all of the time is also not great. Any skill that doesn't work all the time is not great. This is one of the problems I had forever with wave skills. And then they decide to make this a fighter skill. As a matter of fact, when I saw Odd follow-up the first time, I was like, oh, so it's basically Bolt Fighter and Vengeful Fighter at the same time. Except, on odd turns, it's actually worse? Yes, you block your enemy follow-up, but you don't get any charge, which is just silly. I suppose you can just use Heavy Blade as a seal, but... this is not good. Like, this should just have been added to the weapon. It wouldn't, not the weapon, the B skill. It would not even have been that broken at that point. Also, the requirement for the 4 across the board could have just been, if a fighter skill is active, gives 4 across the board. So in other words, if you run Special Fighter with a set that actually works with this speed, which you can do, the only problem is that Idun does it better, then okay, that would be good, and you'd basically have the effect of the weapon permanently there until you're under 50% health, which would have been actually kind of unique, but also not terrible like it is right now. It would actually be the same condition until you change the fighter skill, Because this is a fighter skill. That's obvious. The dot that you see in odd follow-up, those are there for bold fighter, vengeful fighter, special fighter. I'm not sure about wary fighter. I don't think so for wary fighter, but wary fighter is, you know, unique in its own way. But, yeah. Or, you know, as the Japanese version would call it, formation skills, not fighter skill. I don't know why we got bold fighter. In reality, it should be bold formation, and then vengeful formation, and so on and so forth. But yeah, as for comparison, yeah, if you compare Adrian to Hector, you can see they didn't even try when it comes down to this stat line itself. God damn, it's impressive. Absolutely impressive. To put it simply, they have the same speed and the same def. The reason why I say Iduna is a better pref for Special Fighter is because she negates debuffs. So say you get speed ployed, which is a problem a lot more on Hector's side since he can get ployed a lot easier, then you're kind of screwed. You can't really work off your speed too well if you get ployed at all. Any kind of penalty you get actually is basically a nail in the coffin if you go for a Special Fighter set. So it's not too ideal. Then you compare the rest. Yeah, sure, he has 2 more HP and 6 more attack, but he has 7 less res. The thing is, those are armored units. Armored units thrive on being able to take hits. Hector cannot take hits when it comes down to res. At least not really well. Still, while I do say this, I will admit, Idun does have an extra weakness, which is the dragon weakness. I guess that's a fair point to make. Still, outside of this, which by the way really only is a problem in AR, it's not even that big of a problem in AA or Arena for the most part. Then, yeah, as a matter of fact, for Arena, she's a good cheerleader because she has such high stat that she will just be soaking those chills anyway, so your bonus unit doesn't get chilled, which is quite good. But with that said, they have very similar stat lines. It's just Idun is more on the defensive side, Hector isn't more on the attacking side. Now, Rid. Rid is a weird unit to have here, isn't it? It's a cav unit compared to an armored unit, yet look at the numbers. Do you see anything similar? Yes, that's right. They have a very similar stat line, even down to the weapon giving the same attack stat. As a matter of fact, Hector, for the most part, is just a slightly better stat line wise than, you know, Rid as far as stats goes. Words, yes. The thing though is that Rid can use debuffs on his enemy outside of Idun because she negates those and basically gets a follow-up of them. This is great for Gale Force shenanigans and also is not locked to only all the time. That's the main problem that really makes Hector's struggles as far as being relevant. Rid can do the same thing he does on every turn, depending on debuffs, so depending on support to some extent, but, you know, you can't really support Hector to work on even turn a lot better than he does. Well, you can, but it's not exactly worth it. However, you can control Rid, so you can actually make it work on every turn and make every turn count. Doubling with Rid is just as good as Hector. As a matter of fact, Hector might have troubles pulling off Gale Force, just like Rid does to some extent. Mine has 65 base attack because mine is plus 10, and I can assure you I do run into that problem sometimes. Still, while I do say this, Rid for the most part is basically Hector with 3 movement. Yeah, sure, he loses the 4 across the board on odd turns, but, and you know, on even turn, Hector is just straight up worse than Rid. because Rid can actually double while he can't. Unless you run QR, which is not ideal. But, you know, that's just how it is. I do think Rid and Idun are both worse than Hector. Hector is basically too half-baked version of the other two, and it's not ideal. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't consider him worth building, and therefore I'm not going to showcase a build, just like I didn't with Ileana. I will with characters that are really worth showcasing build, which is sadly only one character of this banner, but oh well. Moving on, La Rochelle. Now, La Rochelle is a bit of a weird one. As far as stat line goes, she is by far the best of her color. 39, 36, 34 is very good offensively, and the defense is not all like one-sided. 22-20 is quite good and provides at least 59 bulk against dragons, so with a buff that's 65. Very easy for her to take a hit from dragons, which is quite good. The issue, however, when it comes down to La Rochelle, is her movement type. She is a horse unit. That is the problem. If she had been an infantry unit, well, first off, her BST would be 12 points higher, I believe. So imagine like 6 extra def, 6 extra res, or, you know, 3 attack speed, def, res. Yeah, you get the idea. That would have been a very strong stat line. Even just with those numbers that she has right now, it would work quite well. But the problem is that that is not exactly the case. So, as a result, it's not really ideal, is it? Like I said, her stat line is the best of her movement type comboed into weapon type. In fact, I think she is the best of all Cav mages as far as stats goes. And not to mention, she is one of the few Halloween units that is not a repeat of a different unit that we already had, as far as costume goes. Mad Scientist is a cool team. Frankenstein number 2? Witch/Sorcerer number 3? Not exactly that interesting, is it? So, yeah, it's kind of a shame, though, that she is on a horse, because, oh mama. Like, just look at the comparison. Mist was the best of the typing before, and she literally has 6 more bulk against dragons for her against Mist, while having more offense. Just straight up demolishing Mist. And the only other unit that really is comparable to her is Olwen, because she doesn't have the cooldown -1, the cooldown +1 that Blade Tome gives her. La Rochelle, that is. Which is quite good. It gives Olwen a whole lot of options, which is great. But at the same time, Olwen's stat-wise is very frail. 6s bulk, like I said earlier. I do think, again, La Rochelle is the best of her movement/weapon type, but being a horse limits you to very, very little. In case you don't know, Rue's skills are Cav exclusive, as well as low skills, or so I would say if infantries weren't able to use them as well. Because they can. For whatever reason, they can. And it's honestly depressing. But here we are, I suppose. It's far from ideal. Honestly, it's kind of depressing that this is the extent of the unique skill they have, and therefore they can't really be unique at all. Anything that a cavalry unit can do, an infantry unit can do better. The only thing they really got over infantry units would be 3 movement, or if they have a pref. Like, Rid has a really strong pref, and that's why you actually use a Rid, because Rid is quite good as a result. Or you're like, I guess, Erica, which is not great, but Horse Erica has a stronger version of Luna because of Lunar Brace. Or a stronger version of Black Luna, if you have Moonbow. And that's quite good, because the Lunar Brace gives her true damage. So even if she'd hit someone with 99 def, and somehow Luna would only do like... Well, Black Luna would only do like, say, 30. Well, at the very least, because of Lunar Brace, she'll do 49. And, you know, unique stuff like this is what Horse unit lives and die from. If they don't have any, too bad. And that's kind of the problem with La Rochelle. She is a good one-off as a Blade Tome unit for AA, but see, here's the thing. Any green Cav mage can pull that off. Even a 4-star plus 10 Cecilia can pull that off with Speed Plus. As weird as that is to say, I'm talking from experience. I score in the 750, 760 range, and my Cecilia is not having any issue whatsoever. Still, if you think you're running out as far as AA Green Mage Cav goes, you can consider, you know, summoning for her. That is definitely fine. And now for Dozla. Now, Dozla is ironically the best unit of the banner in my opinion. Despite having one of the trashiest kit I've ever seen on a good unit. Because of his deceptive speed. I told you before, but Special Fighter is what makes or break armored units nowadays. Because why would I run Bold Fighter on, say, Legendary Hector? There's a ton of unit that can pull that off just as well. Surtur does it even better, for example. So, why would I bother with Dozla? Well, Dozla can actually hit a good amount of speed. And he doesn't need Bold, or Vengeful Fighter for that matter. It's kind of funny though that he doesn't come with a fighter skill. But I suppose that's just how it is. Still. Oh, and great job, unit builder. Not able to actually, you know, get more than one stat right. I actually had to edit the picture here to have the correct stats. Because they couldn't. The same unit builder that still isn't fixed Hubert's Radar Fox Tome. Oh, and... to have the res refine, I mean. Oh, and speaking of Foxtome, La Rochelle will actually have a pretty strong niche as a Foxtome whenever the green version is out. So there's that going for her. Now, there is no comparison for Dozla because there is only 4 armored dagger units. And the closest to him in speed has 6 less speed, and that is a unit that cannot have a boon. Christmas Cecilia. If you take that one out of the equation, it's 7 speed. So this set, this kind of thing that he does is very unique to him. As you can see, 60 attack, 47 speed, 45 def, and 45 res. With close counter. And he procs Ignis every fight. So even if you consider his attack to be a bit too low, it really is not. On top of being neutral, so of course having no weakness per se, except, I guess, Nagi and Raven Tomes. So, you know. This is a very strong set, though I will say on lower merges it's a lot less consistent, and you'll typically won't be able to run the res refine. Instead, you'll be running a speed refine to make up for the fact that you lose in speed, and potentially even, you know, give flowers to the guy to make up in speed. A speed refine, and if you have a speed plus, a speed refine, first merge, and dragon flowers, you'll be at 41 speed with buffs. So it's not even that far off. Still, it's worth mentioning. This set is what makes special fighter units so scary. He hits enough speed to the point where he blocks doubles and gets doubles himself. He gets to the point where he can literally just face tank Zelgius, take the hit, hit back and then proc killing it instantly, and do so with so many units. Even if, you know, Zelgus has Bullfighter, it won't do a thing. You won't be able to actually proc Black Luna regardless. The only set that would be scary for, say, for a Zelgus facing this Dazzler would be Special Fighter with Sling Edge. And again, I want to stress on this, but he has to double you. And 47 speed is hard to double. So, you know. But yeah, overall this is a very strong kit. I don't think I have to explain it too much. It's very obvious, so I'll leave it at that. Like I said, Dazzler does not really have any comparison, so it's really hard to really compare him to anyone. But right now he's the only armored dagger that can pull this off. Or really, the only dagger that can pull this off, because Special Fighter is exclusive to armored units. So yeah, overall a very potent unit. It's just, it requires at least one merge, I'd say, to get rid of your Bane, because every single stat that Dazzler has is important with this build. So, you know. And hopefully speed plus, you know. And again, also for the two people who don't realize this, he works with Brave Lucina, so if you don't have Special Fighter fodder, you can actually use this as a second option. Comboing this with Speed Res Bond, and Lucina gives you 3 across the board from Lucina. And the 3 across the board is basically, you know, 3/4 of the merges to plus 10. So yeah, with that out of the way, I think you understand where I'm coming from here. There's a lot of ways to make Dazzler work. Again, though, Special Fighter is better because it shuts down enemy specials. Other than this, I don't think I have anything else to say. So, in conclusion, this banner is boring. Outside of Dazzler, which is unique just for the fact that there are so few dagger armored units, this banner doesn't have a whole lot that I can really talk about. Yeah, Hector looks adorable, but talking about art is something I do more on my streams than on here, so I don't really bother talking about it too much. I do find the art very endearing, but I mean, there's just so much I can do with endearing art now, can I? I do quite like most of the art of the banner. I'm just not really a fan of recycling characters like Frankenstein Dazzler, Sorcerer slash Witch, Hector. It's just very boring to me, but you know. Still, overall, it's a very boring banner, but that's mostly because, you know, horses and armored units are in a very sorry spot nowadays. They are very awkward in so many ways, just because, well, to put it simply, armored units don't have enough unique skills. Most of the skills they have, they share with infantry. Most of the cav skills they have are shared with infantry. Wow, the only thing that are very unique to armored unit are fighter skills. But since they keep going with the same stat lines over and over and over for armored units, then it just ends up feeling very samey as a result. And that's just bland and boring. What can I say? Why would I build this unit the same as another unit that can be built the same? There's like 5 units that can be built the same way as Hector can. And it's just lame. I'm just considering the fire units. The red units. Wow, Jay. Brain, please. So, it's just not great, especially with Halloween Mur existing and Idun existing, which are actually really interesting units. Mur can basically get follow-up all the time while having Special Fighter up just because of her weapon in Quick Repose, for example. Idun can actually shut down any penalty that she receives, so even Aversa is not really that much of a threat. And then you have Hector, which is decent all the time. Man, great pref, dude. Yeah, I don't mean to be a dick. Of course, you know, some of these are characters that people like. Just to me, none of them are really standouts. And unless you really like Dozla, or you like Larishel and might want to make a, I guess, Grand Fox, I think that's how it's going to called, build later, one that gets released, it's not worth summoning on. And that's all I had to say about the banner. So, as per usual, I'll see you all later, or on Discord. Have a good night, y'all.